$5. Oh, no, you rap.
I don't know if it was 2 or 3.
2, nigga. Come on. Come on, man. This nigga be nitpicking on some bullshit. 2 fucking raps, nigga. Yo, Graph Chaps, baby. We live, Graph Chaps. What it is, baby. Yo, what it is, Scully Rock, my nigga. Salute. You heard? Bushwick royalty right there. You know what I'm saying? Graph Chaps, baby. Let me put on this theme music while everybody jump on. You know what I mean?
Diablo, SR the General, full blast the beat God. Graph Champ, yeah, Graph Champ, Graph Champ, yeah, Graph Champ.
Graph Chaps, baby.
Shout out the Graph Champs.
We got SP, baby.
Shout out the Graph Champs.
B.F.B, yo, salute, Hawkeye, what it is.
Shout out the Graph Champs.
Joker.
Welcome, tune in to Graph Champs.
Appreciate
the love and support for all the Graph Camps. The most amazing and iconic artists out here smashing it from the train yards to the rooftops to the storefronts, highways catching wreck. SR the General, he be going crazy, bro, from his Instagram account, Supreme Clientele Radio. Interviewing all the icons, the ones that led the way. Salute to all the fallen legends, the ones that set the stage.
What it is, Rod?
Moment of silence, let us remember those.
Salute, same top,
whether
baby.
they family or they were friend or foe. Hate them or love them, let's show them some respect. Major contribution in hip-hop, Graph Chancellor to the death.
Yo, hold on, SP, I gotta invite you.
Never scared to fry, never. Chancing the odds of getting up, prepared to rise. Super talented vandals, never scared to die. Let's show them love while they breathing. Go ahead and share the live, share the live. So tell a friend to go and
Salute
tell a friend. Tell a interviews are dope.
Share the live, baby, share the live.
To the end. Let's show them love and call it glory time. Repost his post on your post, share his post up on your storyline. So tell a friend to go and tell a friend. Tell a interviews are dope from the start up to the end. Let's show them love and call it glory time. Repost his post on your post, share his post up on your storyline. That's all the God General, Graph Champs, full blast music, the
Season
beat
3.
God. Straight 16, straight to boss of bosses, 4-5 to God. With your boys, Rap Cinema, Supreme Clientele Radio, A1s, Joe 21, Rav MBK,
Here we go,
Joker,
baby.
Nico, White Onyx, 2 on 3.
Yes, sir. Here we go. Graph Champs Season 3. I'm your host, Astar, the vertical, squirticle all over your girl's biznack. You heard? And today we got SP1 B.F.B, a fucking NYC GOAT, a legend. Share. Yo, Neo, we got SP1 B.F.B. You heard, Neo? Big time shit, my nigga. Train bomber, street bomber, everything bomber. King shit. You heard? Share the live, my people. Share the live. Share the live. I want to give a shout out to my nigga F-Boom. You heard? Rocking that Graph Champs today. You heard? I want to give a salute to motherfucking Joe from the Bushwick Collective. Salute to you, my brother. I want to give a salute to Stray 16. They won Platform of the Year on the Internet Awards, on the IG Awards and shit, the Havoc IG Awards. So salute to Stray 16. Salute to Bipolar for doing the awards. You know what I'm saying? And everything that's happening with everybody, man. Salute, 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 bro. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up the man of the motherfucking hour, SP1. You heard? I gots to. Let me see. SP1, bro. No, right? No, I gotta send you the right here. I should have just. All right, I just send you an invite. You heard? All you gotta do is accept it. SP1 B.F.B, yo. All you gotta do is accept the invite. If not, request me again. Damn, son, I should have fucking.
Yo.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. SP1. All right, yo. Before anything, yo, SP, we just wanna salute you and thank you for coming on Graph Champs. You're a motherfucking legend, a staple in NYC, in graffiti, period, bro. And just me personally as a fan, I thank you, bro, because I've been fiending to hear your story for years.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your energy, man. You're still trying to all the stuff you're doing now is like, you know, you really showing like love to a lot of people, and it's really nice to see, man.
Yeah, I just want to push the culture forward, and you see when people like you, you know, later on in life when you're gone, the stories and the history is not going to be there. That's why I need goats like you to keep the history living for all the younger generation.
You got it right, man. You got it right. That's what it's about, man. It's like all the oral history, man. It needs to be recorded. It needs to be spoken on.
Yes. So without further ado, this is how we do it in Graph Champ style. We want to know what got you into graffiti, how you got into graffiti from the very beginning.
Well, I think like a lot of people, you know, I grew up in the 70s, and like I went to like public school my whole life, and like from kindergarten to like 6th grade, the school that I went to, they never cleaned the school once. You know what I mean? So it was just completely bombed. You know, you line it up outside for school, you know, by the yellow lines, you know, stuff like that. And you just look at stuff. You don't really know what it's about. You don't really know, but you just grew up in a time where that shit was on everything. It was on. And so by the time you get to 4th, 5th grade, you could start reading, like it says Van Halen. You could see the Van Halen logo, or it says Aerosmith, or it says Led Zeppelin, or Disco Sucks, or whatever it says. You could start reading little things. And then, you know, sooner than later, you know, most of my friends' older brothers, they started writing graffiti, and then you just kind of like started writing inside the school and stuff like that. So basically it was just something that you just saw. It just like, I mean, everyone, and I'm sure a lot of people that grew up in New York around the same time could say probably a similar thing, because it's like all the kids that I grew up with, at some point, just about almost all of them, they all wrote graffiti for a minute. You know what I mean? Everyone had to tag, girls, guys, everyone. The can came out, everybody wrote something on the wall. And so I saw that growing up. I'm saying, so I saw that growing up. And like, I didn't really know anything else but that, you know what I mean? Like, it had always been there. And then, you know, we would go out, my family and I, we'd go out to the beach. We'd see like the CC trains in Rockaway, and the Double J when it was still connected over Jamaica Avenue, when it still was connected over the Van Wyck Expressway. And, you know, I was like, it was still innocent, because when I first started writing, you know, I just wrote in the neighborhood. You know, it's funny, I was just talking to someone recently about this, and like, I forget who told me this, but when I first started writing, dudes are like, just write in the neighborhood and get better. And when you get better, then you could go and write in other neighborhoods and go float around. You know what I mean? And so I kind of did that. So I was kind of like a neighborhood writer for the first couple of years that I wrote. But yes, I mean, just seeing it. I mean, truth be told, I'll tell you one quick story, man. The one thing that I definitely remember seeing is like the school that I went to, it was like, you know, all fucked up. There was a broken glass, and it was all shitty and holes in the wall. And on the fucking roof of the auditorium, there was like a part where there was no tiles, no bricks. It was just black, like tar on the roof. And someone up there had wrote, "We don't need ladders." And I didn't know shit, but I could read that shit. And I was like, damn, because there was like a drain pipe that you could climb up there. You probably remember, man, stuff getting roofed at school. Like, people would be like throwing shit. And so sometimes we would go there, and the custodian would come onto the roof, and he'd grab all the fucking Frisbees and super pinkies and tennis balls and all that shit and throw them down to all his kids. And I saw that one time, and I just never forgot it. And like, I didn't start writing at that moment, but that was like the first graffiti I remember being like, I could read this shit. And like, it just was like, wow. Just, in a weird way, when you look back, of course, you know, we get older, we romanticize about this shit a bit. But it's like when I think back to it, it's like, damn, it's like that was kind of like a dare. You know what I mean? It was like a challenge. You know what I mean? I didn't really realize it to the full extent at the time, but that shit, when I think about it now, shit is like kind of crazy powerful. And that's what's, you know, that's what's cool about everyone's experience. You know what I mean? Because everybody got their own experience like that. That's like, you know, their friend on the block or their older brother or something, and that's what got them started.
So what year was this around?
Technically, the first year I ever wrote on a wall was 1981. And the first year I ever wrote on a train, albeit it was with a fucking El Marco, it was 1982. So it was around that time.
Wow. So let me ask you a question. Since, all right, so now it's always been there, so it's a part of you growing up in your neighborhood. Yep, it's just a part of you, just you being there. Yep. Was there a point in time where you started, when you started really writing and said, you know what, nah, I'm gonna take this shit serious, like I want to like do something with this?
I think, you know, like ever since I could, you know, when I was a little kid, ever since I could hold a crayon, I always was drawing and stuff like that. and my parents were creative, and so I kind of kept that tradition and stuff like that. So by the time we started, you know, doodling and scribbling our names on walls and shit, like, as I said, like, everybody wrote at one point. And then even the older dudes in our neighborhood that, like, wrote on trains in, like, the late 70s and the 70s, they didn't really get up a lot, you know, but they hit trains and they definitely hit stuff. But I think when we started writing, we definitely, there's definitely a handful of people that, like I said, quit. And then a bunch of us kind of kept it going, and we're like, yo, we're not going to let it go, you know?
What about tag wise? Was SP your first tag ever, or?
No. I mean, it's funny. I was telling this story to someone today. It's like, and these dudes was fucking with us. It was like, as I said, it was like my friend's older brothers that wrote, and we would play football with them, and they'd beat up, you know, they would fucking rough house us and shit like that. And so we would always be asking, like, yo, tell us about graffiti and this and that. And they were like, yo, and back then, and this is like, I don't want to say it's a Brooklyn, Queens thing, but back in 1979, 1980, even before I started writing, it's like, it seemed like 2-letter names were like real popular. Like 2-letter names was like a thing. And so these dudes told us, they said, yo, we picked the 5th letter in our first name and the 5th letter in our last name. And we just picked a number, and that's how we came with our name. And now, like I said, these dudes are probably fucking with us. I asked a lot of people, no one's ever heard of that. You know what I mean? Like, no one's been like, oh yeah, they told me the same shit. So, but truth be told, I did that. So my first name was OR, and then I wrote OR22. But that was like, you know, like, again, that was like, I wrote on my school. Like, that never really made it that far. Then after that, I was checking out like Heavy Metal magazine, and there was a character in there named Den, and he was dope. He was fucking, so I wrote Den, but then there was a more established writer already in Queens that wrote Den, so I couldn't write that. And then whatever, long story short, I seen this movie. There was a character named Spanky, so I started writing Spanky, and that shit was just too long. You know what I mean? But like for a minute, I wrote that shit, and then I was like, damn, I can't. This is too long. I can't write it. So I shortened it to Spy. But like back then, every neighborhood had a dude that wrote Spy. You know what I'm saying? Or like Star. You know, there was like a bunch of names that like kind of every neighborhood. So like, damn, I can't write Spy. So I just shortened it to SP, and it wasn't even like an acronym for anything. It was just, you know, SP1. It was really, I guess, short for Spanky initially. You know what I mean? But that name kind of drifted back real quick, you know?
Wow, yeah. What about throwy wise? Because me personally, you're like in my top 5 dopest throwies.
I appreciate that, man, because there's a lot of good people who do throw ups out there.
Nah, your throwy is just it's always the same every time. Fluffy, beautiful.
Well,
you know what I mean? Very neat.
That's my upbringing, man. That's my upbringing, because like I said, like when I got into it in the early 80s, you know, I grew up in Forest Hills, so like Continental Avenue and like the GG train, that was the first stop for the GG, and the ENF train, and like basically TKC, TPA, RTW, these guys was the guys that was killing at the time. And the cool thing about the GGs is that they would switch up with the CCs, and so of course I wish I took more pictures of the shit back then, but when we would just look, they would sweep out the GG train in Continental Avenue. We would like try and take tags, we'd motion bomb to the next station and stuff like that. But I remember just like kind of studying those trains, and like they would have hand styles because, like I said, they switch up with the CCs, so they'd be parked at Rockaway, they'd be parked at 180th Street, they'd be parked, you know, in all these different places. They'd be parked in, you know, the Queens Boulevard, and so they had all these different crazy hand styles. So it's like between looking at all the crazy hand styles that were on the inside of those trains, and all these dudes doing crazy fill-ins, because back then, like, the E's and F's was getting buffed so hard, dudes was like, we're just doing dusty fill-ins, man. We're going for max, you know? So that was really my upbringing. And truth be told, man, I'd be lying to say that all those crews, TPA, RTW, TKC, they all have, that's all influences my style. Like I feel like there's a part of all that in my style. Like that's what I kind of absorbed from that shit.
So it's just like me, you know. I have like 4 or 5 icons from around my way, like that are like on the Mount Rushmore of Bushwick, yeah. And you know, you add them all together, and I took a little piece of all of them plus my own style, and I came up with me. You know what I mean?
That's it.
is adding on and try to just push it forward and shit. And I feel you've been doing that for decades, my brother. What about the first time you ever went out to hit the fucking trains? Like you was like, do you remember that the first time you smacked the train yard?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, we kind of dabbled for a while, like neighborhood shit. So like, but we were lucky because we had places to hit near us. So, you know, like I said, that we would go onto the platform and Union Turnpike and kind of do little mosquito bites and stuff like that. Go into the tunnel, do little mosquito bites. I mean, we were doing silly shit back then. We'd be like going down there and like shooting off bottle rockets and shit, and just be like bugging out. You know what I mean? There's little kids because we were so young. But like I said, all these guys, you know, we got to see all this stuff. Like you had a front row seat to all this, you know. And you speaking about Bushwick and stuff like that, like KP and AT and all that whole era of stuff is like stuff that I grew up looking at. So it's like it just was like that to me. That was a magical era, man. That was like a magical era of graffiti. I mean, even just the double J trains, like PO, Bid. I mean, there are too many names to mention, but it's just like the shit was real live back then, man. It was real live.
Yo, that's why I love doing this, because hearing the stories, me personally, I missed the train era because I was too young. But you know, seeing Wild Style and Beat Street and all that, that's what I wanted to do when I was 8 years old. I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah,
and shit. So,
all right, hold on. I got a little bit off track. So yeah, so the first time bombing, shit, I don't know. I can't really remember the first time. I remember a couple of times where we went, like the first time I went to Astoria. It wasn't the first time I hit trains, but I remember going to Astoria the first time, and it had to be like either late '85 or early '86. And I had never gone there before. And then we went there one night, and it was just me and my man. And like, we got over, and it was just like, yo, we're gonna come back here every day. And like, there was a chunk of 1986 where we went there almost every day. And if not even twice a day, you go there during the day when they laid half that shit up, and we would hit all the insides, and we'd come back at night when both things were laid up, and we'd hit all of that. And like, if you did it right, like, there'd be like 6 sets. And the beautiful thing about Astoria, man, the thing I loved about Astoria is that, hey, you had like, it was like a salad. Like, you had a selection. You had bulldogs, you had flats. Sometimes you had Ridgies in there. You had a little bit of everything in there. And if you could knock everything out, you could, you know, get 50, 60 throw-ups, you know, and it was like a good feeling, you know.
I could imagine, bro. What about on pieces or doing a whole card? Did you ever do like a fucking whole entire?
Funny, man. Like, you know, I basically, all the dudes that I wrote with were like bombers. You know what I mean? And like, I was one of only a couple of dudes like me. This dude that wrote Hush were like dudes that did pieces. You know what I mean? And so in some ways, I wish I did more pieces on trains. Truth told, I probably only did about like 10 pieces, and we did one end-to-end whole car on the A line in broad daylight too, on Valentine's Day, 1987. Me, Dash, and AI KSW, and that was pretty crazy. But yeah, it was crazy because I remember we would go to layups, and I'd be like, yo, I'm going to do a panel piece, and I would do a small piece, but by the time I was finished doing that piece, you know, sometimes we roll to the layup like 8, 9, 10 guys, and they'd all do fill-ins. So by the time I get done with a panel piece, I'm going to the next car to start doing a fill-in. These guys would already have mapped the whole shit out with fill-ins. There'd be no room left. You know what I mean? But, you know, what was there. And these dudes so obvious. Like, so it was like friendly competition. Like, so when we got in the layup, we were all just side by side, like boom, 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 each car. And so it just became more like just trying to get more up. So like I said, I wish I had done some more pieces, truth told, but like, it's cool. I'm just glad, you know, I got a piece of that time and stuff like that. Cause, you know, I'm not trying to say I was like a king or anything like that. Like I did, you know, I definitely went, you know, again, I remember someone telling me back in the day, said, well, yo, if you hit trains 100 times, you went to the yards and layups 100 times, and you were a real writer and stuff like that. So I always felt like, all right, well, I know I did that. So, you know, whatever that's worth, but you know,
that's an actual fact, because people like don't know what type of impact they make, because you know you're you, so you don't know how other people view you.
Sure.
Nah, you slam shit, bro. You one of them dudes, bro. For real. Like, the streets love you, my nigga. When I say at the end of the show, oh, who you want to see on Graph Champs? Who you want to see next? Your name has come up many a times. But that's not even the reason why I kept bugging you. It's because I'm your fan. I'm a fan. I wanted to know.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, you know, it's funny, man. I was talking sometime. You might remember a long time ago. Damn, man. I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. we kind of met at like this spot on Broadway. When dudes
Yes.
was like doing,
Yes,
like,
I
they were
think I
like,
told you. I was like, yo, you that nigga, said you one of them
and
niggas
I
that
was
made
like,
me
I
right. I'm
remember the
telling you.
place because I knew how many dudes was coming down to paint that place out. And I was like, yo, I was with my man Curve at the time. And I was like, yo, I was like, we got to paint something in here and try and get out of here before this place gets mobbed out. Because the fumes were already crazy in there. And there was no ventilation whatsoever. And I think as we were trying to leave, you and your mans were coming in. And we said, what's up? And this and that. And then whatever. But we didn't get a chance to kick it and stuff like that. And then I remember, like, I don't know. I can't remember who said something. But someone posted up on Instagram one time, like, yo, shout out dudes that did tags vertically and stuff like that. And they shouted out a bunch of like old school cats and stuff like that. And I remember I was like, yo, don't forget SRMBK. So, you know,
Thank you. Good looks, my brother. Good looks, bro. You know, I'm way after you, but like you was a influence on me, bro. Influence on a whole generation of motherfuckers. You know what I mean? And that's a fact, bro. Did you ever run into anybody like in the yards when you was painting trains? Like you ever ran into anybody else that was there?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I remember we went to 175th. Like, there's an era, maybe not everyone would remember, but there's an era like in like 86, 87, where like this guy John 156 was crushing what used to be the double A trains or the K trains back in the late 80s, and they laid up them shits at 175th Street uptown. And we went in there one night, and there was a moment in time where they would, and he'd be bombing with Smith and Sane also, so that they were definitely doing a lot of stuff in there. And like they were doing, I think the brand was called Retardo Green, and it was kind of like a clover green color, and they were all doing shit like for months or a year. I don't even know how long, but they were doing shit in green, and it was just like they had just like a stamp on the line, because anytime you saw that green, you knew it was one of them or one of their crew. And so I remember going into that layup, and those dudes were painting in there, and there was like a green haze in the fucking air in the layup, and those dudes were in there painting. I'm trying to remember who else. I mean, damn. I mean, of course, you know, like I was mentioning Astoria, sometimes you go to Astoria, it wasn't always friendly, but sometimes there'd be like 20, 30 motherfucking people in there. I mean, it was wild. You've heard it, you know, shout to, even though I haven't seen him, I don't really know him, but shout to Wright. He was a dude that we used to see at the layup all the time back then. And I mean, a lot of other dudes, but like, yeah, that place would get crazy, especially during the winter. You know, people be turning on the heat, people be getting on the microphone and shit. I mean, it was like crazy, you know, it was just live like that. It was like just all, you know, people getting fucking lifted inside the cars. And then, you know, sometimes the conductor would come in, turn on the lights, everyone would run, people would jump down onto the streets. I mean, it was fucking crazy.
Yo, that sounds like mad fun, bro. I wish I could experience that shit, bro, for real.
Well,
I love trains so much.
Astoria was cool too, because like some people had like a fear of heights, you know what I mean? So that like, I think some people were like, yo, I'm happy going into a yard. I'm not really going up on those tracks. And understandably so, man, because this shit was sketchy as fuck. I mean, they have all that, they have more reinforcement, that like, whatever, that hard yellow stuff that they have up there now. But back then it was literally like, you know, putting your foot through like a broken plank and stuff. I mean, it was beat up.
So let me ask you a question. What about like if you're going on a bombing mission, right? You're going to hit a certain fucking layup, and then you're creeping and you see like fucking 20 motherfuckers. You're not just gonna go and be like, hey, what up? And, you know, because you could get robbed for your paint and all that shit, right?
Nah, I mean, yo, true told, man. I keep it real, man. Like we went like early on, like in '85, like was like I think maybe the first place I ever did a throw up on a train was in the M Yard, and like me and a couple of my friends went in there, and back then there'd be mobs of dudes hanging out by there, by the oval, by the baseball field there. And so we went in there a couple of times, and it was like we didn't like wreck the place, but we did like, you know, we did like hit a bunch of cars, and then we're like, yo, let's bounce and just like let's be safe with it. And then we came back one time, and there was like 40 motherfuckers there, man. And so like, you know, they luckily, I mean, whatever, I don't want to mention names because I know a lot of people is not with us anymore, and you know, stuff like that. But like, you know, dudes definitely tried to like stress us and stuff like that, and they were stressing my man. And then I saw some people in the crowd that I knew, and so at the end of the day, they were like, yo, you could come in the yard, but your people can't come in the yard. And so I was like, well, I'm going to stick it out with my people and stuff like that. So luckily nothing really bad, nothing happened that night. I mean, maybe maybe a couple of cans were taken for some people. I don't want to say that it wasn't, but you know, it was just like sometimes. But this is the shit though, is that, you know, we had gone there a couple of times, so we felt comfortable, and we came up through like the freight, like we walked up that hill from like the freight tracks and like rolled up literally and like behind these dudes. You know what I mean? So like they were all like, yo, where the fuck these guys coming from? And so like, you know, luckily we would started to make a little bit of noise back then, because they were like, what do you guys write? And so we told them, and like it would just happen to be like we had just hit 8th Street, like we had just like bombed the shit out of 8th Street, like maybe I don't know, the weekend before or something like that, with like just fat cat tags and shit. Like back then 8th Street was like, that was a big spot, you know, especially coming from Queens, you know, like 8th Street, you know, Union Square, you know, by the Cube, all that shit, man, was like, to hit those spots were a big deal. So they were like, oh yeah, we heard of you, whatever, but like I said, they didn't want to let my boys in, so we had to take a L that night, you know.
Yeah, I get that's the way it is sometimes. Did you ever go to like the writer's bench?
No, that was, you mean up in 149th Street? No,
Yeah, that was before you?
Before my time. I mean, basically what happened is that I went to high school, like the first year of music and art, like LaGuardia High School opened up was 1984. So I started going there in 1984. So that kind of exposed me to a whole new shit. Because like I said, my whole education on trains was like the E's, the F's, the J's, GG's, the 7 train, basically anything that rolled through Queens. So by the time I got to high school, then I started seeing the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s, and like really seeing like, you know, shit, famous pieces and famous writers. And because like to me, and I don't know, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel like the BMT lines, the letter lines, they were like, to me, they were like the blue collar lines. Like dudes were like, I'm not saying dudes, I mean, you know, Shout to Crime and Baby and all these dudes doing colorful pieces, and people did fresh shit on those lines, but dudes was just doing like blockbusters and top to bottom silvers and straight letters and like just shit that needed to be seen from like, you know, a mile away. You know what I mean? So that was also an influence, man. And so to me, I always looked at that. And then when I finally started seeing the IRTs, it was like there was all the glitz and the glamour of Broadway. You know, they were all like lit up in colors and hot pinks and plums and, you know, all kinds of wild pieces. And I remember, especially on the 1 line, I forget the exact car, but there was a Case 2 end-to-end whole car that ran for like, I don't know, till the trains went out. You know what I mean? Like the only thing that happened is that back in the maybe like the mid-late 80s, the workers, they started rolling the 1 trains with like these rollers of paint. They wouldn't even buff the shit. They would just hit it with like a line every few feet. You know what I mean? So you still see it. So, but that car got mad, like the most respect out of a car I've ever seen in life, man.
Do you think it was hard to like be? Did a lot of, well, the question is like, was a lot of writers up on all the letter lines and the number lines, or was it just like it was hard to be up on both because of territorial shit?
Well, there's definitely dudes that hit both the numbers and letters, man. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the first person that comes to mind is a dude that you know, rest in peace to Rab CAC, man. Like he was a big influence on me. We went to junior high school together, and like I basically, you know, took notes and watched what that dude did. And he hit the numbers, he hit the letters, he hit all lines. And but there's a bunch of other people that did that. I just, like, for whatever reason, I just stuck to the letters. I don't really know why. It wasn't even really a territorial thing. It was just what I saw. So that's what I wanted to, you know, the R trains or the B trains, or you know, we'd go to the Dewey Yard in Coney Island. You know, I hit the trains that I saw, you know, like when we hit the trains in 175th, that's when I was going to high school. So I would see those, you know, going to Midtown Manhattan, you know. So I was more into hitting the lines that I saw. But that being said, I never really did hit the 1s, 2s, or 3s. So I would have liked to have done that, but it just, yeah, whatever. I just kind of stuck. I kind of stayed. I was like a real Queenser, you know what I mean? Like I was a real Brooklyn, Queens dude. Like I'd either be bombing shit in Brooklyn or Queens. Like that was kind of the zone.
I feel you. So what about when all right, so I'm gonna pick your graffiti brain a little bit then. All right, at that time, cause to me, I noticed that, all right, so it's the Godfather era, like the 70s and the early 80s, and then you come out in the early 80s and you're going through there in the train era, right? So the the amount of years that people got to spend in the train era before it ended wasn't very long. You know what I mean? Who is the best? Who's your favorite train riders when you was in the game, like heavy?
Wow. Well, like I said, I mean, what? You mean before I really? I mean, like I said, before I started painting, or when I was like involved in it, like.
Nah, when you was involved in it and you was out there doing your shit and you were just seeing niggas like, oh shit, these niggas, this nigga right here is that nigga.
Like I said, like the seeing the 1, 2, and 3 lines was a real eye opener, man. Because like I mentioned, John 1 before. There was like Flight, TDS, there was Rack 7. There was a bunch of dudes doing pieces on the 1 lines that really kind of got my nose open. But I have to say though, I think to me, and I know this is a lot for a lot of people, especially from this kind of era, one of the most influential writers and one of the, I think, I don't want to say he's underrated because the people that know, they rate him high, but like Mitch 77 was a writer from the Bronx, right? And when I was real young, I would go to Yankee games and he had a piece that I know a lot of people know that was off the platform by Yankee Stadium there on one of the billboards, and it was one of the most incredible pieces that like I'd ever seen. And to be honest with you, if you saw this piece today, it would still hang with what's going on today. Like this piece was that advanced, and so Mitch 77, you know, is definitely up there. I mean, you know, it's hard to say like, you know, it's like this. I could answer this question like 100 different ways. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people because back then you just absorbed all this shit. I mean. Like I said, I guess that is the one train that I did see. That was the one IRT that I saw early on. I guess that's true because my dad and I, we would go to Yankee games when I was real young, and I saw the 4 train. So then when I started seeing the 4 train, and we were going when the Yankees kind of sucked, like, you know, 1981, 82, they weren't that good. And so I would be like, you know, we would go, like my friend would come with me, who also wrote with me, one of the first guys I wrote with, and we would just be like, yeah, we're going to go to the bathroom. And then we would disappear for like an hour and go by where the escalators were and just bench the trains. And with my shitty little 110 camera with the wrong speed film, I try and take pictures of like, you know, Band 2, Delhi 167 shit, you know, Mitch, and like there's just like a fucking disc, the dude that wrote Disco, like all these dudes had pieces on the trains back then that was like just crazy shit, man. And so I became a fan of all that shit. And even just going into the Bronx, there was other writers like G-Man and BS 119. These guys were all city, like when I first started writing, these guys were up in, I mean, like they were up at Rockaway to Mount Vernon. Like they had tags everywhere. So those dudes, like I always, like G-Man, like I said, G-Man and BS 119, a couple of writers from Queens, this dude that was So Fine and Mia. These dudes, man, it's like you don't hear about these dudes a lot, but they, you know, like we said, like there's certain people that you grew up with that you remember, you know, that really had an effect on you.
Do you got like photo albums of old school trains and shit like that?
I do. I mean, like unfortunately, like I said, I wasn't taking pictures because, you know, I think part of like what I said earlier, like, you know, we just grew up, graffiti was always there, so there wasn't really an idea of like it was going to go away. You know what I mean? So I started taking pictures like when we would go to the Yankee games, and that was probably like 80, 81, 82. The pictures aren't that great. So I do have some pictures, and I have some pictures of the Double J, like I said, when it was still going over the Van Wyck Expressway, of like Lookout Crew, you know, PO, AB, PG, like all that stuff. And so it's like that's all stuff, you know, Tour, all the TD4 stuff, Crazy Riders, on NIF, all that stuff, man. I saw all that stuff, like, you know, like I said, front row to all that. So I wish I had taken more pictures. I'm glad I took the pictures. And then as far as when I started, because like I said, I was a neighborhood writer for a couple of years. So like I didn't really start writing on trains more heavy till like 85. And then that's when I finally started to realize I should take some pictures. But even then, I was only taking pictures of like me and my crew. You know what I mean? I wasn't really like, yo, I should flick these pieces. I was just taking pictures of me and my friends, you know? So I'm happy to have those pictures today. But like I said, I wish I took more pictures because, you know, I saw so much shit. I see pictures today, and I'm like, oh, I saw that live. I remember that. You know, I remember, that Arab and Webb car. Oh, shit, I saw that live. I remember that. You know, so it's like I do have that memory, which is cool. And it's cool that all these stuff reflects. So I think, in a weird way, like in the 90s, I started to like whatever, make a long story short, I was walking along and I saw an open hatch. It was like to a layup. And I just fucking went in, and I went in there, and this is like in like the mid-90s. And I just went in, and I ended up taking pictures in there for like 4 hours. All the shit in the tunnel, all the shit in the layer, all the shit in the walls. And then I got kind of hooked on that shit, man. And I felt like, oh man, I was like, okay, now I'm going to compensate for all the time I didn't take flicks. And so then I started, me and this dude E.B. TKC, who I was a fan of growing up, we linked later in life, became good friends, and we ended up doing a lot of tunnel dwelling and a lot of documenting, some filming even. And so I started just flicking mad shit. And even then, I started in the 90s, luckily, Greenpoint, East New York, all these places still had old graphs still living on the streets. Now it's like pretty hard. You got to knock a building down to see some old shit run. But yeah, so I still, man, to be honest with you, man, I was in East New York day before yesterday, man. I was trying to find pictures of shit. There's some old shit. And even when I was in my old neighborhood, I found some pictures on the Interborough or the Jackie Robinson of some tags of me and that dude Hush had on a pole. It's probably been there since '85. I didn't even realize that she was still there. I was in traffic. I looked up. I was like, oh shit. Pulled off. Luckily, I was like, this shit was in a fenced area. Luckily, there was a hole in the fence. I just walked in, snapped it off, and I was just like, yo. So anytime there's old shit, I'm always down to take flicks of it, man. I'm one of the things during the fucking height of the pandemic that was like, a positive thing is that it gave me the time to organize all my shit, my photos, my negative stuff like that. So in the coming years, this year and next year, I'm going to be coming out with some books and zines and magazines and like, books and shit like that. So I'm about to come out with a bunch of shit. So all this stuff,
that's
I kind of
dope.
held a lot of the flicks to myself. You know what I mean? I've shared a lot of the photos because obviously, Instagram is like, I tell a lot of people, I'm like, God damn, like, people that are not graffiti writers, I'm like, Instagram was like tailor-made for graffiti. Like, it's like, so dudes, it's like you can't help themselves, you know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, so there's definitely going to be more stuff coming out with the photos and shit that I've taken over the years.
Nah, that's dope, bro. We need shit like that, like I said, to keep the shit moving forward so kids can see what it was, you know what I mean? And shit. What about did it ever hit you, like, when did it hit you, like you feel like you got the recognition, like you know what I mean, like you was getting up or killing shit?
I don't know. I don't know if I ever really, it's funny. I don't know if I ever really was like, I'm looking to get recognition. I'm like a pretty humble dude. So I'm just like, I'm happy to be like, having fun with it and stuff like that. There's definitely times where like trying to remember who, like, where like there was someone like that you looked up to and that they knew who you are. Like, I'll just say later in life, like I was lucky enough to meet Jester, who's like a fucking legend. And he fucking bugged me out because he knew who I was also as like an artist. He knew me by my real name and all this stuff when I met him the first time. And I was like, which is crazy because also, I guess the first time, even though I didn't know it, I was going through the system and he's seeing me in court, but that's another story. But when I actually met him, I was blown away. He was just so, he knew who I was and shit like that. I was like, damn. I was like, that's a moment where like you feel like, wow, like, okay, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like that people like that know who you are. That's pretty cool.
Hell yeah. What was there ever a time where you met somebody that it disappointed you? Because there's been plenty of times that I met niggas, I'm like, oh shit, and then they were just dickheads.
Yeah, I'm sure. Obviously, I'm not trying to shit on anybody, but
yeah, nah, I don't want
yeah,
to say
of
names
course,
like that.
there's all of the above. That's the beauty of it, man. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of it, is that it's like I always say, it's like if everyone met each other on the right day, everyone would be cool. You know what I mean? If everyone met each other on the right day, but that doesn't happen. Not everyone meets each other on the right day. So, but I can't really think of anyone off the top. There's times that I guess you get disappointed, but I to be honest with you, man, I feel lucky, man. It's like I know Vinny. You know what I mean? Like I never thought, like, growing up seeing Vinny my whole life, and shout to Vinny. Dude's still getting it in, and it's like, I grew up my whole life, and it's like, especially when you come from Queens, man, because back in the day, man, Queens got shitted on, because dudes was like, yo, it's not the Bronx, it's not Brooklyn, it's not Manhattan, and I was just like, yo, Vinny is quick. I was like, yo, Queens represents. So I was like, I didn't really feel stressed about it. So I was like, yo, but just to be able to, I never really thought back then, like, yo, I'm going to know this guy later in life. You know what I mean? Like, I actually paint with him. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of shit that's like, you know, that's good, you know, because like, you know, I say to dudes like, you know, whatever, in the Instagram era, it's like, you know, you don't do it for the likes, you do it for the love. You know what I mean? Like, dudes do it for the love of it. You know what I mean? And that's the realness. So.
That's a fact, bro. That's why we did it. It was never about fame or nothing like that. It was just for the rush,
Yeah.
the feeling. You know, I was getting away with something. You know what I mean?
Of course, man. I mean, the whole shit, you know, getting over on shit. I mean, getting away, you know, stepping back and seeing what you just did and like being like, all right, what's the next stop? Like, where are we going next?
And preparing for it, racking. Like, they didn't know the lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. Like, we get up, we're racking all fucking day, we're bombing all night.
It's a full on, yeah. I mean, that's why. I mean, I'm a little bit older now, so like I tell most dudes, like, I'm like, yo, you know, I don't get down like I used to, but I still get down. You know what I mean? But like, it's just like, it's a full on. When I see dudes getting it in, like, I'm just like, wow. I'm like, you know, they're living the shit. You know what I mean? Because like, you dudes have to be at least bombing 3-4 nights a week. That means they're racking, they're sleeping in, they're doing what they do to survive, and you know, taking flicks, catching day flicks, whatever it may be. It's like a cycle, you know. So that's a full-time job right there. That's a full-time job.
That's a fact. A lot of people don't know how much dedication it takes to do all of that shit.
Yeah, and like scoping out spots, the whole shit.
Right? Or getting mad when the rack gets blown up, right? So many people know about it. You told this nigga about the rack.
Yeah, well, that's crazy because, you know, we used to hang out. We used to hang out on Continental Avenue in Forest Hills, and it's crazy because one time I went to the city, and I don't know if you remember a dude, and I don't know where he's at today, man. I haven't heard about him, but I'm sure you heard of the crew BSK, and AR BSK, who I believe was the president of BSK. I met him on the train one day in like, I don't know, like 1984. I think I had a black book on me. And he was like, yo, you right. And we just started chatting. And he threw me down with BSK, but like, I didn't really hang with those dudes. So, but I definitely threw it up a handful of times early on. And then one time there was a Woolworth right on Continental Avenue where we racked. They basically had crime on. They had like, you know, the 5-6 colors. They had like leather brown, flat black, white, antique white, cherry red, true blue, and hunter green. But that's still all good. So we would go in there, and I remember what we would do, me and my boys, we would go in and we would all go down different aisles and then end up in front of the paint at the same time and then just kind of try and swipe it and grab a bunch and just keep on going. And one time we tried to do that, and boom, we walked right in front of the paint, and AR and another dude, I believe, that wrote RT, were there with two long-ass coats. Like, they had like winter coats down to their ankles, man. And they was like about to rack up. And we kind of blew the spot for them, and we were like, yo, it was cool. We weren't like territorial with it because we didn't give a fuck. We were just like, yo, man, take as much paint as you can, man. There's fucking, we would steal the paint. They'd be like offloading the paint off the truck onto the elevator to bring it to the basement. And sometimes we'd grab a 6-pack or 2 off the elevator before it even got into the building. So we just like, yo, fuck it. But I remember we was in there and we were like, oh shit. And I was like, yo, we met before. I was like, you throw me down or whatever. So, you know, it's just funny how all that shit is, man, you know.
Hell yeah, yo. What about this is another question I always wanted to ask you. When the trains was dying out and then the street era was coming in, how was that for you? Was you like, oh, now I'm gonna just hit streets?
Yeah, I mean,
was it difficult?
It was like, for me at that point, it was like intermittent because I was in college at that point. So I was only in the city for like a little bit, you know, during the summer, Christmas break, you know what I mean? So I wasn't around 24/7. So now you're talking about the era when, like, you know, Jaws and TK and Josh and Easy and those guys were killing Chino, and all them dudes was killing Gates. And so I definitely wrote, Gates, and doing Gates was like a big deal, you know, back 89, 90. I mean, so yeah, I did a lot of Gates, not as many Gates as those dudes, but that was definitely a thing. Like, Gates became like a priority, you know, like, for sure.
Because that era of SP right there is the one that was very influential on me and shit. When like the Gates, the throwies on the Gates, the little fill-ins and shit.
Yeah, well, that, I mean, that's the shit, is that there's all these different eras and the shit still evolves. I mean, you see what's going on today. Dudes are still crushing bull cars, man. So it's still going on.
The, but when you started hitting streets, did it fulfill your fucking, like, was it the same as train bombing? Like, did train,
No,
like,
I mean,
did it
again, I wasn't as prolific as a bunch, but I mean, once it went to clean shit, I partook in that. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely did some turnarounds and stuff like that. But yeah, it was weird. I think at that point, I started to, well, at that point, okay, well, when I got out of college, then I started living in Boston, or outside of Boston. So I wasn't in the city full time, but so at that point was like when I really started to, you know what, that's really like the early 90s is really the point where I started to take piecing more seriously. And started to do, because all the dudes, when I started hanging out with these guys in Boston, they were all about, they were about peace, they were about bombing, but they were also about piecing. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to start piecing more, because like I said, all the dudes I grew up with were bombers. So we mostly bombed together, and I would knock out a piece here and there. You know what I mean? So once I finally got to there, I was like, okay, these dudes want to do full-on productions. And, I'm sure you remember in the early 90s and all that stuff, it was all about like productions and pieces under trestles and tracks and like off the train lines and stuff like that. So they're part of the parking lots of Soho. That was like a whole thing. So, but yeah, that's definitely took piecing a bit more seriously.
So you said they used to bomb with Hush?
100%.
Hush, because I remember in Videograph, Hush, he had a lot of, a couple of pieces and shit and stuff like that, like Hush, Dash.
Yeah, those are all my partners at one point or another in the beginning. We all used to go together.
Dope. Who's your favorite person to go bombing with?
Well, there's a lot of people, but in some ways, I say, I don't know if it's a tie, but I'll tell you this. There's a dude you may heard of, and respect to Deck 2DX now, but I used to write with this dude, Deck, from Bushwick. And yeah,
that's my boy.
I respect to Deck. And shout out to him, man. Shout out to that man, because that dude was a killer. And not only was he a train killer, but like him and another dude I mentioned before, this guy AI KSW, also a train killer. These dudes, they had like what I would consider like a sixth sense. Like we would go and paint trains together. And these dudes, they just knew. It's like, you'd be going and you'd be not sure, like workers rolling up on you or other writers rolling up on you. These dudes they didn't give a shit. They just knew how to do it. And they I can tell you, like, I bombed with these dudes a bunch of times, or more, like tons of times. And fucking, they would get more throw-ups than everyone else, catch more spots. They just had that fucking, that killer instinct to get, more shit. So I would say Deck and AI. I mean, again, there's a lot of people I bombed with over the years that like, are like family. So, but those dudes, I have to say, man, they had a little extra fucking boost, man. Because those dudes, I mean, I remember we go to the M Yard and Deck would be like, I'm going to go in here and check this place out first. And be like, all right, so we check, because we would go down those dead end blocks and climb up the fucking chain link fence to like the second story, and then like shimmy over to the hole that's like under the live track. You know what I mean? And so we would go up there, and then we'd all hide under the live track, and he would go in there, and like 10 minutes later, I'd see him. He'd be on the roof of the building, looking down all the aisles. Be like, yo, he's on the fucking roof. And like, yo, truth be told, man, I mean, again, not to be like whatever, but like me and Deck did a lot. Me and shout to No, FYA. Fucking shout to Mag, rest in peace, and fucking, we did a lot of shit together. And like one night, I can't front, man, me and Deck tried to do a rooftop off, Seneca Station, and yo, he like I couldn't. He was tall, man. I was just a little. I'm not that tall. I was little, so he climbed up to the roof, and I couldn't climb around the barbed wire. He could like walk around that shit, like. Again, like, dude was like a magician, bro. So, but luckily there was a ladder up there, so he put the ladder down the street. All his boys were chilling on the street. There was still like, that's back still when like a bunch of those buildings, those like brownstone buildings, were like still like boarded up. There were like no one living in those buildings, and dudes were just chilling on the corner, chilling in the stoops. And so we went on the roof, They had our back. We started doing our outlines. All of a sudden, you hear dudes from the street whistling. We look up at the train station. There's like 5 or 6 cops just standing on the platform, just staring at us. So we broke out. We ran to the back of the building, and fucking, he's like, yo, he's like, we got to jump to the next building. And I'm like, what? And it's not a far jump, but it's far enough. And he jumps right onto the fucking fire escape of the other building. And I'm like, yo, I don't know if I could jump that far. And it's like a 4-story drop or 3-story drop. I don't say it would kill me, but I'd be fucked up if I fell that shit. So yo, I ran off that shit and I jumped, and like half of my arm grabbed onto that shit, and he grabbed my other arm. So I don't want to say he saved my life, but like, yo, he saved me in a fucking tight spot. You know what I mean? I never forgot that shit. And then the craziest shit is when he pulls me up, we finally get onto the fire escape, and I'm thinking like, yo, we're going down the street and trying to get the fuck out of here. He goes up. He goes to the top of the building. And I'm like, yo, where the fuck are you going? He's like, no, we're going to the top. And so we get to the top so then he could look at the corner, and he could see all 3 corners. Because back then, there was not only the cops on the platform, there was even auxiliary cops walking around. And they were like, you could hear the stereo of the fucking walkie-talkies, like, you know, this. And we were like, oh, shit. So he saw, from this vantage point, you could see all 3 corners. We saw these cops walk around the corner. And then we fucking ran down the fire escape and jumped on top of a dumpster. Boom. And then we got away. But it was crazy because, like I said, you could hear all the walkie-talkies in stereo. And they were like, yo, we see kids on the tracks. And we were like, yo, there must be some other fucking kids on the tracks. So luckily, we got away. But that shit, but yo, I always remember that night. I was like, yo, that was the night that was sketchy. I wasn't sure I was going to make that jump. But luckily, so that's great. A lot, man. So shout to Jack.
Salute to my nigga Jack. Word, bro. Give me another crazy. What's the craziest bombing story you ever had?
Craziest bombing story. Wow. Yeah, that's hard to think. I probably should have thought about that earlier. Well, I tell you this shit. Well, okay. I know one time, like back in like '89, they closed like the Interborough Park. And I think it was 1989. They closed half of the highway. They were doing like construction. So basically, there was like no lanes going to Brooklyn. There was like one lane that went to Queens out towards Long Island, and that was it. So we would just run around on the highway. And so that gave us an opportunity. Like, you know, we were just doing tags and throw-ups on the highway. We were like, yo, we could do full-on fucking pieces on the highway now. Fuck it. So me and that dude Hush, we did 2 silvers under by Union Turnpike. And I don't know, it was like, you know, late at night, 2:30 in the morning or whatever it was. And so we were doing pieces down there. And the way it's set up there, it's like a curve. So like you can't really see us until like you come right into the curve, and then then you see us. And so basically there was just one lane, and they just had like those median, those barriers there. And like all of a sudden we're painting, and a car comes by, and we're not paying attention. Like only if someone stops, so we're worried about it. We're not stressing nobody. And all of a sudden, I hear like some screeching sound, and the car careens up against the fucking median and lands on its side, like right in the center of the highway. And I'm like, oh shit! I run over. There's like 3 generations of a family. There's like young girls. There's like a woman. There's like a grandmother. They're all climbing out of the car, and they're all speaking Spanish. I can't speak Spanish, so I'm trying to be like, yo, are you okay? Is everyone okay? And they're like yelling. Because I'm thinking like they saw us writing and they probably weren't paying attention, and they just drove up on the thing and fucking flipped the car. So long story short, I'm talking and everyone sees, because they're all mad. They're all yelling at me, man. So they're like, mother, and I don't understand a fucking word of it. And I'm just like, damn. But I was like, all right, I guess everyone's all right. So then I'm like, yo, we got to get the fuck out of here. And I look, and like I said, it's in a curve, so you can't really see around that bend until you get right up on it. And I'm like, oh shit, there's other cars coming. So I kind of like jog up, and I see other cars, and I'm like, yo, stop, like slow down. And so I slowed them down, and people got out, and I'm like, yo, and then we fucking ran into the woods and disappeared. But I don't know, there's other stories. I mean, there's a lot of crazy highway stories, man, like D-Techs trying to roll up on us on highways and trying to pull into the bushes, and you know, having to run into oncoming traffic, and you know, so that shit was normal, because I mean, highways was like, especially coming from Queens, man. highways was a big fucking deal, man. We tried to crush highways as much as possible, man.
So you like highways better than streets?
Highways were fun because you could do pieces, you could do fill-ins, and sometimes it was easier because, you know, you just dip into the woods and you pop out, you know, you're on the fucking highway. I mean, not just, you know, again, you know, same thing with the Interborough. I mean, we would hit walls on the Interborough, and one time I almost got clipped by a car mirror. So, you know, it definitely, you know, there's some spots that are iller than others because we would definitely try and walk down to the spots that were right on the highway too. Like, there's some dope spots on highways that are set back a little bit. You don't have to worry about shit as much. And then there were times we, like, you know, trying to hit the middle. Like, I remember a big deal. I mean, you know, rest in peace to Per. I mean, you know, Per TAT and Per FX, man. Like, even when I was first coming up, man, he used to have RE throw ups, man, like in the middle spots of the highways, like that little thin spot in the middle where the walkways, he had those spots, even in Queens. And I was like, yo, I remember seeing those shits, man. So I was always like, damn, I was like, anytime we try and get a center spot, I was like, always try to run in the middle of the highway, get the center spot. And so, you know, but yeah, highways were fun. You know, I mean, back then it was everything, you know what I mean? But back then you had access to everything. I mean, you know, like I said recently when I was doing shit with Angel and Z and stuff like that, it's like, you know, Forest Hills was a great place to grow up, man. You had truck yards, garbage trucks weren't far away. There was just fucking, you had handball courts, train yards, layups, highways. I mean, the Interborough, the Van Wyck, the Grand Central. I mean, there were just walls. There was shit for days, man. So tunnels.
Oh, the garbage trucks. Garbage trucks. A lot of people don't bring up the garbage trucks.
Yo, dude, Dessa. Dessa.
That's a fact. Salute, yeah, salute to my nigga back to the house.
Yeah, man.
And TKA too. TKA and JRC had
yes.
garbage.
Yes, all those dudes.
That's a fact. So what about what era you think was better, man? The 80s or the 90s?
Well, I mean, I think both eras are kind of dope. I mean, it's funny. I'm working on a project now. Like, you know, I used to do this magazine in the 90s, right? So we're making a book and an exhibition off of like my archive. And so the 90s is like real important because that's like, you know, New York had already had an established graffiti scene, and, you know, like Philly had an established scene, and California had an established graffiti scene, and Chicago, but other cities and other countries, graffiti was really starting to take shape. You know what I mean? Like, it was starting to become a thing. So the 90s is real important as far as like for the internet and people connecting through the mail, and, you know, the whole idea of like, and you know how it is, man. You could go anywhere, man. You could go to anywhere in the world and fucking hook up with some dudes and probably get arrested or get in trouble within 24 hours. You know what I mean? Like, easy. You know, or not, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm kidding, but like, I'm just saying, like, you could go anywhere in the world now, and you could link up with dudes, and that's an amazing thing, man. And that kind of started, I feel like, in the 90s. But for me, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. I mean, like, I saw bubble letters and stuff in the 70s, but I didn't write back then. So to me, the 80s is always going to be like the golden era for me. And like, you know, because what I saw, like, I just feel like, and even looking at the pictures now or looking back, it's like, to me, I feel like, you know, the early 70s are like its own thing. So like 71 or 72 to 76, that's like its own fucking magic on its own. Like, that's its own thing. But I feel like when dudes like Part and like the TMT guys and all these other dudes that started developing crazy styles and stuff like that, then, like, I would say like 78 to 82 for me is just like the most magical fucking era of this whole shit, because it's like, you know, when you look at a letter, like someone wrote like a letter back in, like, you know, the early 20th century, like the fucking penmanship is like impeccable. It's like this incredible penmanship. I feel like that's what everyone had in the late 70s and early 80s, man. People's hand styles were just, it was so good. Like, people just had such fucking good hand styles, throw-ups, but this shit was still developing too, you know?
So because I know in the 90s, a lot of niggas there's a lot of dope throw-ups in the 90s.
Well, dudes started getting extra. I mean, obviously, you know, I mean, like I said, Dessa and Giz and Scuff and Kez. I mean, the dudes started doing shadows and force fields, and you know what I'm saying? Like, so it just, that's the shit that's cool. Like I said, like, for me, you know, to like see, like, you know, like a dusty, you know, Min, like an NE throw up on an E&F Ding Dong with like a fat cap fill-in and like a stock tip outline from me, and then to be influenced by that, and then to see other dudes that came after us, and I'm not saying they're all influenced by me necessarily, but like you saw that progression, you know what I mean? And like dudes just kept on at, and now you see where it's at. Motherfuckers are walking around on ladders doing throw ups like 4 or 5 stories tall. You know what I mean? So it's still evolving. You know what I mean? It's like I look at shit today and I'm just like, dudes is going wild. You know what I mean? Like dudes like, how big can I do a fill in? How much of this roof can I paint? It's like it's crazy.
That was gonna be one of my next questions. Like, what do you think about the graffiti these days?
It's bananas, man. I mean, it's just like I'm just amazed that dude get away with some shit, man. Because I see things that I'm like, dude, you had to be sitting there for at least 20 minutes, man. So, but it's impressive, man. It's not like at one point that was me, but like I'm not like I said, I'm not trying to crush streets, but yeah, no, I give credit to all them dudes, man. Dudes be like, yeah, I mean, there's too many to mention, but you know, they know who they are, man. They're dudes just killing shit. And like in some ways, I don't think New York, you know, whether trains or streets, in some ways, I don't even think New York has ever been this killed. In some ways.
That's a fact, because a lot of out of towners too come and just destroy shit everywhere too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, you know, I mean, I'm trying to remember like Star Street, Brooklyn. There's like a wall. There's like one full street that's like a brick wall. I forget what's in between what streets it is. I'm pretty sure it's Star Street, but it's just like from end to end, it's just macked out fill-ins the whole way. It takes up a whole fucking block. It's like across from that park. Spacing on the name, but I see like that, just like dudes just doing rooftops. Like now, it's like everything's on. It's like when we wrote, you know, it's like even before, like, you know, shout to fucking like, you know, OE and P13. Like these dudes went. These not only were they trained fucking killers, these guys were like all city, like had tags on the Triborough Bridge and on the BQE, and it was like they just had stock tip tags. That's it. They didn't even need a fat cap. They just had stock. Now I'm just like, wow, like dudes are just fucking, you have to do like the biggest, I mean, dudes doing like 3-can fill-ins too. I mean, it's just crazy, man. Dudes doing fucking fire extinguisher shit. So it's, yeah, it's pretty nuts, man. So,
you never did a fire extinguisher?
no, I never did. I've done, like I said, I've done some roller shit, but I've never really fucking squeezed off one of those shits. No. I mean, I've squeezed off a real fire extinguisher, but that was different.
Yeah, like I never wrote my name with a fire extinguisher. Imagine a giant vertical coming down the whole building. That would be crazy.
I was like, I think maybe it was like Metro and Troutman or somewhere around there. I seen that dude Duster had a huge fucking tag on the side of a building. I was like, with a fucking fire extinguisher. I was like, so, you know, it's old habits die hard, man.
That's a fact, bro. So did you ever went to a different country bombing?
Yeah. I've painted in Italy and Paris and a bunch of different places. Not as much. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that have painted in other countries more than I have. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to paint in Germany and a bunch of different places. So yeah, it's cool, man.
Yo, that's fire. Did you ever go to a country and like people like they knew who you were? Like, oh shit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, because anytime I painted like another country, I mean, besides Canada, maybe. It was like in the 2000s, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Oh, all right.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely hit a bunch of places, but yeah, there's always other, I mean, there's definitely still a bunch of places I want to travel, that's for sure.
What about movies and commercials and shit like that? Your shit, how many movies your shit came out in? You must have came out in a lot of movies.
Some, not really, but yeah, some things. I don't know. I mean, back then, you know, back in the day, it was a big deal when you came up in the newspaper or came up in a TV show. Now it's like that shit happens every day.
Yeah. Yeah, merch, of course. People could like buy sticker packs and canvases and shit like that off of you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't really push the shit hard. Like I do stickers and prints, and I sell some of the old issues in my magazine. And I, you know, when I do some editions, I'm working on a bunch of projects now, where a bunch of stuff is, you know, going to be coming out later this year and early in 2024. But yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, I just, you know, I appreciate that people, you know, I appreciate that people are, you know, are still down for me and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, people want to buy stickers or want to buy a drawing or buy a print. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I do other artworks that may be like more expensive and stuff like that. So I want to make sure that everyone, you know, has a chance to buy something. So I'm not trying to like, you know, charge, you know, I want there to be affordable stuff for people, you know what I mean? So if a sticker pack or a t-shirt or a print or a drawing, you know what I mean?
And pin,
No,
you got to make a pin. You got a
I
pin?
got one. I got one. I got one.
You got
Yeah,
one? So then people can hit you up on your
yeah,
Insta
yeah.
for that. The pin? I need that.
It's on the big cartel, man. It should be on there, man. It's like I said,
Oh, okay.
I don't market this shit to death. I should probably be better at that shit, but I'm down, you know, I'm down for people to kind of like find it, you know what I mean? And when they find it, people buy stuff. So it's kind of a steady stream of stuff, you know, that's kind of, you know, I'm selling one thing or another, but yeah, it's cool. I mean, like I said, I appreciate that people dig what I do. And so I want to make sure that, you know, there's some, you know, if someone wants to buy something, that there's an opportunity for that.
Yeah, that's dope, bro. I definitely need the pin. I didn't know. I need that in my collection. Definitely.
I get you.
Yeah, so now, yep, I gotta pick your graffiti brain. I'm sorry, this might be hard. Pause. But throwies. Who's your top 10 favorite throwies? Come on, you have one of the dope throwies. So you gotta tell me, you gotta spit somebody out, please.
Okay, I think I've probably already mentioned a few of these people already.
All right, wait. Let me get my paper ready. My bad. I don't mean to be unprepared. All right, I'm good.
Oh no. I mean, again, there's more than 10 people. You know what I mean? But I mean, 10 people.
Yeah.
That I think. I mean, 100% Baby 168. Those throw-ups were like mini pieces. They had a shadow on them. Those, especially the ones in the floater spots. Beautiful. I guess, okay, to stick on the J train, I was a big fan of P.O.'s throw-ups, man. P.O.S.I.S., man. I love those throw-ups, man.
Yeah.
I know they're like, I don't think I ever seen anyone do throw-ups like the letter P like he did. Like that was like unique to him. And like, yeah, I mean, again, you know, KP, AT, YD, I mean, Quick, Min, Hayes.
Hayes. Ooh.
I mean, damn, bro. I mean, let me check EL3. Let me try and think of some esoteric. Of course, EB, Sir, Eco, TKC, and then, but no, maybe actually, hold up. I know I probably already mentioned 10, but I mean, of course, OE with the throw-ups.
Ooh.
And then,
all right.
And then if I mean, I could keep going, but if this is my last one, which is maybe my favorite one, is Demo TPA.
Ooh.
But there's more. I could shout out another 20, easy. I didn't even say Iceman.
Tell me one more.
Iceman. Ice LFD.
Iceman.
Yeah.
Huh? my boy is like, get all 20 out of them.
No, because yeah, like RE, MOG, SR, TLS. Damn, bro, so many throw-ups. I mean, I like the Rab CHC throw-ups. I loved. Damn, bro. Kaya, the CA throw-ups. The Joy. Zephyr did the Joy throw-ups. Oh, hold on. Wait, Sloan. Hold up, Sloan.
Ooh,
Sloan throws.
TPA.
Give me up now, because I'm going to forget somebody, man, and I don't want to forget nobody. Now I'm trying to like get everybody out there.
Ooh, Sloan. He's underrated.
No, Sloan's throw-ups are legit. Those shits are original as fuck. Damn, who else? Yeah, maybe I should just leave it there, because if I start trying to trip, I mean, Go 4. I mean, I don't know, like mad dudes, like.
Nah, you already set up crazy. Just the first one you said, Baby 168. I'm happy you said that, because he don't get a lot of recognition that he deserves.
He bombed, dude. I mean, I know he's known for pieces, but these dudes bombed like a lot. Of course,
That's a fact.
PG throw-ups too. I mean, obviously.
PG, rest in peace. Yeah, bro. So What would you tell, like, do you have any advice for the young graph writers, like, that's trying to get, come out?
I mean, just
Like, what would be one thing? What one thing you would tell them, advice?
I don't know, just keep going, just keep pushing it. You know what I mean? Like, cause some dudes, it's like, back even when I was writing on trains, you know what I mean? It's like I said, I was more of a bomber. Was into making mops and doing insides and doing throw ups and stuff like that. And so there's dudes that rode on trains that only did insides or only did throw ups. You know what I mean? So today, now you got people doing rooftops, full on like fucking roller pieces, all kinds of wild shit, fucking whole cars. So I'm saying, just keep on going with that. You know what I mean? Keep it going. That's really the only advice, because I'm not, it's easy for like the old dudes to be like, yo, you graffiti guys, this and this and that, and it's like, I see a lot of old school guys kind of like hating on new school dudes or being like, oh, that's not the way you do it, or this and this and that, and it's like, yo, man, it's like everyone has their time. You know what I mean? Like for me, like even though I've been writing a long time, and like but for me, like say on the trains, like for me, writing on the subways, like it was really just like 85 to 88 was really like my window. You know what I mean? So it's not a big window, but like to me, that's a part of. I feel like some of the time I got up, either not just on trains, but trucks and highways and all that shit. I feel like that's when I was up the most. Probably like 1988 was probably like the best year for me. So I just, like I said, this kids just keep pushing it forward. It's cool to see people, who respect kind of like the old school style in certain ways, like throw ups and stuff like that. So that's the kind of shit I dig seeing,
Yo, when you rock the throwies, it's so dope because you don't need a shadow. That's,
nah, I mean, there was
that's
definitely a time where I was trying to rock a shadow or force fields or whatever, but it's funny because I see like there's a picture of me and Deck actually that no FYA took of us doing throw ups, and like I even forgot I was doing kind of like a force field around my shit, and like again it was a throw up completely inspired by like Quick RTW, because he used to draw faces in his cues, and so I started drawing faces in my P's and stuff like that, and he would draw like little fucking antennas and little crazy shit, so and he was a big influence in doing throw ups and stuff like that, and made throw ups doing made them fun.
Yeah, throw ups is crazy essential, bro.
That's fucking me on Ghost. The Ghost throw.
Ghost.
Can't forget that, man. I mean, I know I'm probably forgetting other dudes, man, but I can't forget that one.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Yeah. Ghost, definitely. He's one of my top. Them GHs are just so iconic, crazy.
But yeah, well, also dudes put in so much work. It's like you can't, even if you was trying not to like him, you can't not like him. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't do it. But if you can't, if you do, that's your problem.
Yeah, you was talking about him before. Smith. Smith is one of my favorites. Also, Smith is very dope.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
very, very dope.
Yeah, well, those dudes also, like I said, there was a time where him and his brother, they ran shit crazy. They were running on the lines heavy.
So when did you start slowing down? What was the years that you started slowing down?
I think the first time was probably around 2005, because I remember there's like I have like this going thing, like I have to do a throw up, at least one throw up every year, like with a date in it, like at least one. Of course, I would exceed that, but in 2005, I remember for whatever reason, I didn't really do that much graph. And it came towards the end of the year, and I was like December something, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta do a bunch of fill-ins. So I did a bunch of fill-ins, but it was just towards the end of the year. So, and then I don't know, I'd say like recently, man, I don't know, like in the last 10 years maybe, it's like kind of slowed down. Like I just I got work and a bunch of other stuff going on. So, but like I said, I try and squeeze the shit in whenever I can. I mean, I was fortunate enough. I did like maybe beginning of last year, I did a piece with Zephyr, some steel. That was nice. You know what I mean? So that was definitely something, a high point of last year. But yeah, I try and squeeze it in whenever. I mean, but like yeah, it just gets littler and littler, as time goes on. And I think also too, like yeah, just whatever, just life shit, gets in the way.
Yeah, so at the end of the day,
But
it's
okay.
just life,
It's okay though,
bro.
because like I said, I mean, like I was saying, these other dudes, like for me at my stage, like I said, man, enough respect to all the dudes that are crushing shit out there, man, and I love to see it, man. But like for me, I like kind of seeing like rare shit. You know what I mean? Like I like to come up across like, oh shit, this dude don't have that many tags running. Like he just did a tag. Like I seen this. You know, sometimes you see like an old school guy just pop out. Like you see like a Boots 119 tag somewhere, and you be like, oh shit, like, you know, I like seeing shit like that. It's like he's not you know up everywhere like dudes is killing today, but when you see it a couple places, you're like, yeah, that's good. You know.
Definitely get me hyped. Like, just when I see like any old school, just like Fib, Trap,
Yeah.
whoever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, those dudes.
All of those.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely painted during the same era, and those dudes, yeah, those dudes crushed shit.
Yeah, my top dudes is always Easy Jaws and Josh 5. Those, you know what I'm saying? They the blueprint for me. I thought they were up so much. Like in my era when I was growing up, I thought they were from my
Yeah.
neighborhood. That they were up everywhere.
Well, that's why that shit is so impressive. Because when you're hitting trains, you go to one spot, you go to a yard, you go to a layup, you hit all them trains and they move around. Now, when the trains are taking out the mix, you had to troop through those neighborhoods. You know what I mean? And that, so like what you're saying, like you'd be like, yo, I thought these guys were from here. They had shit so on lock. So it's like that's impressive shit, man. That's a moment. That whole era is a moment in graffiti, New York graffiti for sure.
That's a fact, bro. And so you said that you're coming out, you know, in the near future with like mags and all of that, right?
Yeah, well, a book about kind of the '90s, like the magazine era, about that whole time.
That's dope, bro. I can't wait. I'm gonna be waiting on that.
Pretty chunky, man. It's gonna be pretty chunky, man.
Dope, man. So do you have any last things anything you want to say before we jump off of this, bro?
Well, just appreciate you and what you're doing, man, and thank you. And again, thank you for your patience. And yeah, man, just keep on keeping on, man.
Nah, man. I thank you, bro, for coming on, yo. This was a super treat. You know, I know you're a busy dude, and just I didn't mean to keep bothering you, but I had to try to make it happen, bro.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
All right, so let me ask you a question. This is the last question. As a fan of graffiti, the way I am, who if you could see anybody on Graph Champs, who would you like to see?
Mitch 77.
Yo, SP, thank you so much, my brother. You are a NYC GOAT, and we salute you, my brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. Enjoy your Saturday night. Enjoy the weekend. And salute you, General. And, yo, man, I did some vertical squirticles in my time, too, man. So we connected, man.
Yo, we got to link one day and rock a throwy, bro. That shit will look beautiful.
Let's do it.
Salute,
all right,
my
man.
brother. You gotta X yourself out.
All right, man. Peace, man.
Yo, that's motherfucking Graph Champs. That was SP1 B.F.B, baby. That's what is this, the third or fourth show of the year? This is the third or fourth show of the year. I gotta look it up. I don't remember. Yo, salute to you, Skay. You was the first one that set off the season, bro. Yo, salute to you. And we still got the part 2 coming. I know that. Then we had motherfucking Chase. We had Chase from the Bronx. Salute to my brother Chase. Yes, and this was the third episode of the year of Graph Champs. Big SP1 B.F.B dropping jewels. Yo, A1s, I see you, bro. You heard them jewels, bro? Mad jewels, bro. I seen people in the building. I saw Sess in the building. Sess, nigga. Salute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, says salute to you, Sess. I seen a lot of goats in the building, bro. All of y'all, yo, salute. I see you. Salute, GNS. I see you, my brother. Salute, Roach. I see you. Salute, Damp. I see you. Salute, Ribs. The motherfucking Gat crew. I see you. All my brothers. I see all of y'all. Yo, I see all of y'all. Thank you for the support and the love, man. That was Graph Champs. Yo, Big Jims. I see you. Sacks, I see you. Salute to all of y'all. I see some big ones, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Salute to Feck. Salute to Miss Mags was in the building. Salute to it was just so many. Yo, salute Rude. I see you. KAC. You heard? It was, yo, salute to you, Note. I see you, PK Note. You know what I'm saying? 357 in the building. I see y'all. Salute. I see you, Cone. Yo, there was a lot of OGs in the crowd tonight. I seen them. You heard? We already got the next show lined up. So I'll see y'all in 2 weeks, bro. Yo, salute Ray. I see y'all. Yo, salute Senna. I see you. That's it, man. I'm your host, the Vertical Murtical Squirtical. You know what I'm saying? That was greatness tonight, boy. In 2 weeks, I'm gonna see y'all with the next show. That's it. Salute, baby. Graph Champs.